And we're live. And my name is Philip Ailes. I'm from Ailes Solutions. I'm here with the 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack Tilley. It is
Hoorah!
a honor to be in this conversation with you. Just to give a little background to everybody, I first met Sergeant Major Tilley in the Pentagon when I was working force protection with we were deployed there to help out the Pentagon police, their last iteration, to help while they hired in more police officers. I came across him in the gym and I was like, wow, that's Sergeant Major Tilley. So I asked him for a meeting. He said, okay. So, and after all these years, I've been retired. I haven't seen him in 20 years. And I called him up last year and he answered my call. And he is probably one of the most down to earth people I've ever met in my life, especially a leader that was the top of his game. There was no further he could go in the United States Army. And he led, and he's had influence over countless and service members and women, men and women. That Jack, you blanked out on me. Are you there? All right. Well, apparently he's having some technical difficulties with his phone, but there he's back.
All right, I lost you for a second. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, that's all right. Things happen. It's just I'm so honored to be talking with you right now. If you had asked me a year ago, I never thought it would be possible. But you know what? I found out with a positive attitude and just, you know what, stepping out of your comfort zone and doing what you think is right. And you never know what can happen.
Well, I tell people all the time. I mean that if you want to do something, do it. Don't wait. I mean, life's too doggone short. Just don't wait. Just keep moving on. Just keep doing exactly what you want to do in life. I mean, when I grew up, I was a terrible kid. Nothing went right for me, and so I just, if I want to do it, I do it. If it doesn't turn out great, okay. But I'm never going to be hindered or slowed down by people saying you can't do whatever. I'll do whatever I want to do.
Yeah. So you've had a very distinguished career, and you've met a lot of famous people, and especially government, and everywhere you've gone, I think you have brought a positive energy that resonated with people. And so what have you been up to since you retired?
Well, what I've been up to is, well, it's interesting. I have a national podcast now. I called Your
Oh,
Next Mission. Yeah, I do shows. We put one show out a week. I'm pretty active on social media. Try to put at least one post out a week on Fridays. I put out what they call these shorts, about a 30-second clip on what a particular subject and stuff. So I'm doing a lot of that stuff. And then plus I'm a small business owner, have about 10 people. I don't have but I have 10 people that I work with on that. We're focused on education for our veteran community. What else? I think through the foundation that we started when I got out of the service, we've given away about 11 or 12 million dollars in scholarships, and then another million or $2 million to organizations to help the veteran community. So I'm real focused on trying to help the veteran community as much as I can.
so if someone's looking for assistance or anything, how do they get a hold of your foundation or
Well,
your?
I think what you got to do is, we're a nonprofit. Normally, if we help somebody out, it's got to be another nonprofit. We don't give money directly to anybody.
Oh, okay.
So what they got to do is go through a nonprofit, whatever, homeless or whatever, and if we can figure out how to help them that way. But if they can contact us, I mean, you never know. We'll certainly try to assist them any way we can, but we can't give money directly to them. The problem you have is that, I hate to say that, but it's true, is not everybody's honest. And so you have to make sure you vet them a little bit to make sure that it's fair. In fact, I almost got scammed here a couple of months ago, really about 6 months ago. Guy contacted me actually to buy some computers for him and give them to his company. And I said, oh man, so I went back through the State Department. So I went back and I checked it all out, called this guy, gave me a number to call, and I called the guy and all that stuff. Well, The day of, now I'm getting, I can't remember how many computers it was, but it was $280,000 worth of computers. And the
Wow.
day of, I said, I just don't feel comfortable. A friend of mine, Dan Eller, says, Sergeant Major, you better check this out again. So I did. Actually, this time I got my own number, State Department. And it turned out the guy on the phone said, yeah, it's a scam. I said, you kidding? I hung up, turned it off. The guy never got the computers, but I still lost quite a bit of money just putting back in stock. It's, I think, about $16,000, but it could have been $280,000 I'd have lost. So it's really a shame. There's so many people out there that just I just want to, steal your money or steal whatever versus trying to help you. But I think that all those people who do those things like that, they can't put them in jail deep enough in jail. They ought to, lock them up and just throw away the key.
So what I hear is you deal directly with nonprofits themselves.
Yeah, we help nonprofits out. We do about 4 or 5 hiring events a year where we put people to work that are looking for employment. Now in fact, if you want to, you can go to the American Freedom Foundation, get on it. It'll show you where our hiring events are going to be at. I don't know actually what the number is, but we've always said we've been doing it for a long time. So probably, I'm guessing maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people we put to work. All we do is connect them to the employers like Boeing and Raytheon and a bunch of different organizations. And I there's a lot of veterans that get out that struggle because they're not prepared to get out of the service. That and their spouses. We try to do all we can to help them.
What is the main hardship that they have during transition?
Well, I think the main problem you have is people don't start at the right time. I always said that you need to start about 2 years out.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I think you need to do is make sure you get your education before you ever get out of the service. But know where you want to live, have a resume, start networking. Networking is really the key to success. Start that process, like I said, a couple of years out. Start talking to employers. You can't sign anything because you're still on active duty, but at least you can talk to people about it. What else? Pay all your bills off. I think rip your credit cards up. Don't have one credit card. Get a new cell phone. There's a lot of little small things, but I think the problem you have is people wait to last 90 days. Wow, it'll be not going to be a problem to find a job. And the numbers changed now, but this is an old number. The DOD spent $1 billion a year on unemployment because they got to pay the unemployment when people get out of service that don't find employment. DOD spent $1 billion when I first got out. The cut for the Army was $500 million. Now they since got a little bit better. I don't know what the number is. Maybe they're spending $300 million. I don't know, but that's why all these programs have came out about start the process, do all this stuff because they're really trying to save. I think they're trying to save money, and which is smart anyway.
Yeah. So we talked earlier, and you mentioned something about you were in charge of payrolls and during your time in the military.
Yeah. I work with my boss, great guy, General Shinseki. He called me in one time, and I hadn't been there very long. And he said, hey, look, he said, Sergeant Major, you're going to be in charge of pay. And I said, woo, okay, I got it. No problem, sir. So, I had the people come up and brief me on pay and all that stuff. So what, I really took the former Sergeant Major of the Army, Bob Hall, he was working on it already, but I took his program, just continued to build on it. And we had targeted pay for the non-commissioned officers and officers. If you look at the pay scale, if an officer makes $7,000 a month and you make $2,000 a month, and we all get 3.5% pay raise, who gets more money?
Yeah,
you keep splitting that up. So what I wanted to do was sort of close that gap. At the time now, a sergeant major now with oh God, was it? I'm probably off a little bit, but let's say example, a sergeant major with 20 years in the service, a captain, I think it was, or a major, I can't remember now, but with 5 or 6 years in the service made more than that sergeant major. Yeah, so that's really not necessarily fair. So what we did is we focused on the non-commissioned officer course. So when you went from staff sergeant to sergeant first class, there was $300 or $400 bump up when you went to there. Sergeant first class to E8, right up there. So there's more of a dispersion. So if you made E8 to E9, you get another $500, $600, $700, $800 dollar pay raise there. So it was dispersed. But now I think they went back to the old system. Not saying it's wrong or right. They went back where they just, everybody gets a 3.5 or a 2. Got to be careful
They
about
don't have
it.
to
It's a
think about
targeted
it.
thing, huh?
They don't have to think about it at that point.
Well, the problem is, in fact, here's another interesting thing. They used to tell me when I was in the Pentagon, we'll give you $10 million to put on bonuses. And I go, I don't want it. They go, what? I don't want it. Why? Well, because if you give me a bonus and I give that bonus to whatever, maybe $100 million, I don't know. But I give that additional money bonus to you while on active duty, it doesn't mean anything. When you leave the service, that's gone. But if it's in your base pay, that's what you get retirement pay from.
Yes.
So if you want to say you're going to give me 10 million, yeah, I'll take that 10 million or 50, $100 million, but we'll put it on the base pay. And then that'll increase your salary. You get more money as you get older. And the other thing is, let's be honest, it's about 81 or 82% of the force is enlisted guys. So when you start making all these cuts and doing all this stuff, it's nothing against officers, but it's not going to affect your officers as much as it's going to affect enlisted guy. Majority of people get out of the service or retire or a sergeant first class, not because they're bad or whatever. It's just because they get in those MOSs and they don't get promoted, and there's no upper mobility in a lot of cases. So that's just the way it is.
I mean, you talk about upper mobility. You came in at what rank?
As a private. E1. I was a private. I got out of which is a funny story. Most people know it, maybe they don't. I was a troubled youth. I was a terrible kid. Spent about 9 months in reform school when I was a kid. I was, if you name it, I think I probably did it. And I went back. I come back and went back to school. Graduated from school. I was sitting on the Columbia River up there in Washington State. And so he said, what are you going to do with your life? I said, I don't know. He said, you want to go to college? Listen to this now. I said, guys like me don't go to college. Low self-esteem, nothing's going right, no direction in life. The next guy says, hey, you want to join the military? I said, sure, why not? I had no idea they was even fighting a war. I wasn't reading the paper. So I went basic AIT jump school straight to Vietnam. And so I often tell people I went from 18 to 55 in Vietnam. So I grew up real fast. When people are shooting at you and doing stuff, it just, but on the positive side of that, and I always say there's three things that really helped me in life: God, family, and the United States military, in that order. Because the military changed my life and made me who I am today. I've owned as many as 3 companies. I currently have 1 company. Don't have any bills. Life's pretty good for this old guy. But you have to make sure that you have a direction in life to go to. And so, I'm not one of those guys saying, oh, woe is me, life's falling apart. Baloney. If it doesn't work, fix it. If it's wrong, say something. But I'm not going to go in there and start yelling and screaming and yelling. Hey, no. Roll up your sleeves and get the job done. And that's really, I think that's the kind of guy I am. Now, there could be some people that disagree with that, but I think that's the kind of guy I am.
Yeah, well, I'll say that's the kind of guy that through all my military leadership training and college and everything else, everything is pointed to what I had. I had another interview with General Zanini back when he was in Korea.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was my commander at CENTCOM. He great. Oh, wonderful guy, smart guy. Whew. Yeah.
I met him through a community projects, the one where the community comes together, let the commander know the problems, the issues, and how we can fix it. Yeah. Well, I met his wife, and then I met him, and he put me on his schedule.
Yeah.
And one thing that you blacked out again. One thing that I had remembered the most, and it had a tremendous impact. He's like, don't worry about the people above you. They're doing their job. Your job is the people below you. If the people below you tell you you're screwing up, you need to pay attention.
Well, what you got to do is stay in your lane of operation.
Yes.
And you know what the word sergeant means? The word sergeant in French means to serve. So you got to serve the people above you and below you. And I think a lot of times people get messed up because they're more worried about the person above them.
Yes.
And it's really a balancing act. I'm going to support my commander and first sergeant, sergeant major, whatever, but also going to take care of my soldiers that I'm working with. So that's I got to tell you, General Zanini story though. I worked with him at CENTCOM.
Yes.
So I went in one day and I said, "Hey, look, sir, we're having a party tomorrow. All the enlisted guys, some officers, we're having a function. I'd like to see. Would you show up?" "Oh, sure, sergeant major, got it. I'll be there." If you I'll put it on the calendar. Everything's locked in. 2 hours. You're squared away. So the next day, I'm getting ready to go, and I don't see him. I said, "Well, I better go check him." So he's on the phone, and in his office at CENTCOM, he has a red phone. So he's on this red phone, and I said, I sort of put my hands up. I said,
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I can't talk. So he didn't show up.
Yeah.
So the guys asked, "Where's it?" I said, "Well, he got tied up doing some stuff." So the next day, I went back to in his office, and I said, "Hey, look, sir," I says, "Geez, if you say you're going to be there, I appreciate you there." He said, "Sergeant Major, I got an excuse, I guess." And what excuse? I just told him what happened. He says, I had a little problem. I said, "What was that?" He said, "Well, I was on the phone with the chairman and the Secretary of Defense. It was like 15 minutes out from bombing Iraq. I was a little timed out. I'd had to sort out this stuff." I said, "Hey, look, sir, I got to admit, that's a pretty good story, and I don't blame him for not going." So he was pretty involved right there. So yeah, and the other thing about General Zini is first time I ever went anywhere with him was California, and he was speaking out at an event, and he got up and he didn't have nothing in his face. He wasn't reading a speech or anything. And at the end of it, I asked his aide, I said, "Hey, can you give me a copy of the speech of Sergeant Major?" "What? He don't have a speech. He's just sort of talking all the cuff." I said, "My
He's
goodness."
winging it.
Well, he's an incredible person. I really enjoyed working with him. I was very honored to work with him, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of Star Trek's Jean-Luc Picard.
I don't watch Star Trek. I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, well, he was the captain of the Enterprise, and he's very articulate, very knowledgeable, very poised.
Yeah.
But so being at the Pentagon and during the Iraq War when it popped off, what is your most memorable experience during that time?
Well, at the Pentagon, I just 9/11 probably was a business. I mean, I loved working in the Pentagon. I liked all the people, but 9/11 was the biggest one. I mean, I remember I was in my office, and there's a Master Sergeant David Shadd at the time called me and said, "Hey, Sergeant Major, you got to turn on the TV." And I said, "Sure." So I turned on, looking at CNN, I guess it was, and I watched the second plane hit up in New York. And I was supposed to go to talk at a boss conference, I think it was. And so I went into the office right there, and I told all the guys that was there, I say, "Look, guys, this is not, in my mind, this is not a mistake. Something's going on. So stay close to the phone. Something pops up, call me as quickly as you can." Went out, got in a vehicle, drove over to Fort Myer and talked to a group of lawyers. And on the way down the hill, after I finished, I was coming down the hill, and the plane actually hit. And I went back into the building. Everybody's evacuated, went back around to the front. And then, that the rest is history. But yeah, that was a terrible day for our country. And the other thing it did for our country, and really what's sad is we forget very quickly about 9/11. People, they just say, "Well, that happened." I mean, there's people born now never knew about 9/11.
Yes.
So the problem is people got short-term memories. But I think, God, let's say I hope it never happens. But I wouldn't surprise me if that ever happened again in our country, because we haven't secured the borders. There's a lot of things that we can complain about it, but there's a lot of things I think we need to be very cautious about in the future. And besides that, just unrest all over the world, and with things that are going on with Ukraine and all Russia and all that other stuff. So I think we need to be concerned about that.
Outstanding. So you were in Vietnam.
Yep.
And I know you made it over to Iraq.
Oh, yeah,
What's
yeah.
the difference in those two wars that you've seen? Because there's not too many people left that have that experience.
Well, I tell you, Vietnam was the thing about Vietnam was a war nobody wanted to fight. And there was a lot, at the time we was drafting people into service. There's a lot of people, very good people that was drafted, but didn't want to be there. That's the first thing. So it was an unpopular war, a lot of booby traps, a lot of things, that certainly didn't like. But I learned a great deal from Vietnam. I remember that, where do they put mines, what to look at, just a lot of things in general. I mean, I used to tell people, if you don't see a kid begging for food, drop down because something's going to happen.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, you got to be ready. And if you think about that, in Iraq or in Russia, you don't see a kid begging for food, drop down. You got to get ready. So I think different war, different times. I think Iraq, we ran through that really pretty quickly.
Yes,
getting through there, but it sort of drew out because of Afghanistan. The thing about war, I think people got to really understand, war is not pretty.
No.
And everybody wants to be, I like you, you like me, let's talk about it. Well, here's the thing about that. I go back to, I'm going to tell you a little story. In Bosnia, they had the zone of separation, and the guy I was working with was a guy named General Nash, Bill Nash. He asked me one day, he says, you want to go to this meeting with the warring factions? And I said, sure, I'd love to. So I went up there and I sort of stood off to the corner, and he'd talk to these guys and do all this stuff, and I'm listening to all this stuff. So at the very end, he says, anybody have any comments or anything you want to say? And they made their comments. And when they finished, I won't use the words he used, but he said, let me tell you what you're going to do. And he commenced to chewing their butt. And you'll do this, and you'll do this, and you'll do this, and you'll do that. And I thought, we better get our weapons. These guys are going to fight us before we get out of here.
Yeah.
And so when we finished, we walked outside. He says, Sergeant Major, what do you think of what do you think of the meeting? And I said, don't you think, sir, you're just a little bit hard? He says, Sergeant Major, let me tell you something. He said, if you don't treat these guys like this, they'll be running all over us. So I'm going to tell you another story about General Nash, because you really touched on something. I was in the talk, and we were supposed to look at all the caches of weapons. They're supposed to give up all our weapons.
Yes.
So we had an infantry unit that went through this compound and sort of, I don't know how they knocked on the door or whatever. Says, hey, look, we need to come in and see your weapons or secure your weapons. The guy said, can't come in. He said, what? He said, you can't come in. Well, we're Americans. That's what we're charged. He said, I don't care who you are. He said, well, let me just tell you something. He said, I'll come back tomorrow with my friends. He said, I guess evidently come back with anybody you want to come back with. Okay. So the next day, he came back, same guy. They had, I don't know, some helicopters, a company of Bradleys, and some dismounts, and did the same thing. Knocked on the guy, beat on the door, however they got him to come. And when they opened up their compound, in the back, you could see these Apaches sort of come up out of the woods, aiming their missiles at that thing. He says, now would you let me in? If not, we're going to have some problems. He says, please come in.
His attitude completely changed.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is, there's countries all over them. There's a lot of these countries have been fighting forever. And if you're weak, they'll shove you around. You can't be weak. You got to say, look, this is what we're going to do. If you don't do this, this is what I'm going to do. And if you say you're going to do it, do it. Don't back off. Just do it. And I think that's what we got to do. We got to be a little more forceful about stuff. I want to be polite, and I want to, is it he, she, and all this stuff. Well, that's good stuff to talk about. But again, a war, it's war. People shoot at you, you shoot at them. If you don't do your job, I mean, it's like, I give another class down in Fort Lauderdale every once in a while, and I asked all the people in the audience, I said, raise your right hand. And they raised their hand. I said, I will. They say, I will. And they put their hand down. And I said, do you realize what you just did? And they said, well, no. What you did, you said, I will protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. You know what that means? That means that you're willing to die for our freedoms. Are you willing to do that? And that's what every veteran does for all of us. They're willing to give up their life and the freedoms of our country. And I think sometimes people forget about that. I mean, you don't see active duty very much. You see the National Guard Reserve more than anything else. You don't see active duty. People forget about what it's really like to find it. We're only 1% of our country serve in the military. We're not, we think everybody knows who we are, but we're a very small organization in comparison to a lot of people. So I think you gotta be concerned. The other thing I'll tell you right there is this, when they say defund the police or something like that, I cringe about that, because what's the outcome here? If you defund the police and there's no police to protect us or our communities right now, Who's
Yes.
going to protect me? Well, bottom line is you protect yourself.
Yes.
You know? And if you just start saying you protect yourself, what kind of world would this be? I mean, everybody's carrying a weapon. It's the fastest, it's going back to Wild Wild West. It's sort of a scary thought.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I saw when I was in Iraq, because I trained the
Mhm.
Iraqi police at the Baghdad Police Academy.
Yeah, yeah.
And one of the things I had a lawyer there said, you know what, this will keep going until they said enough is enough.
Yeah.
And they say we're not going to live like this anymore.
Well, it's just we just people in war. I mean, the average age of somebody that dies in war is 18 to 24. I think I'm right about
Yes.
that. And when you start looking about the Civil War, 650,000 people died. Of course, we're getting better at killing people now. Less people die, but the fact of the matter is that one person dies in a war, it's too much. And then all the people, that come back with scars, and scars really that you can't see. People come back with post-traumatic stress. There's certain things or certain words for me personally now that when I'm talking to a group of people, I got to be very careful not to say, because if I do, it'll make me choke up a little bit. I'll get a
It'll
little
trigger
teary-eyed.
you.
Yeah. But it's the fact of the matter is, this is the best country in the world. We have a lot of freedoms that we take for granted. We allow anybody to say whatever they want to say. That's okay. I want you to do that, but
Yeah.
don't steal. Don't, whatever's mine is mine. Got to tell you another funny story here. So when I moved into the house I was living in, there was people that was breaking into houses, and I got, I'm a concealed weapon permit. I'm probably,
Yeah.
what I'm going to tell you is probably against the law, but so they're breaking into houses. So I sort of started watching, and I seen these two kids on bikes. I don't know how old they were, but there's one sort of about a block away and one in the back, and they're sort of scrolling down there. So they're looking for houses to break into.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just happen to have my Glock. And so I'm charging my Glock back. He says, "Hey, sir, what is that?" I said, "It's a Glock 19." He said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Look, it's got a laser beam." "A laser beam?" "Yeah, yeah. Just put that dot in your head and pull the trigger. You won't miss." He said, "You wouldn't shoot anybody?" I said, "In a heartbeat." I said, "I'm a military guy, and I'm not real stable about stuff. But if I ever caught anybody in my house, I would probably say I'd be the last person talking. So you would kill somebody? Absolutely. Wouldn't I don't have a problem with that. Probably the only problem I'd really have is trying to clean up the mess on the floor. But yeah, I'd shoot them in a heartbeat. So they broke into houses, never touched mine.
Well,
Well,
they're
I mean,
like,
but
this
there's
one's
probably a law against that. You shouldn't do that. But the fact of the matter is that we don't want that to happen. We don't want people to do things like that. We elect people or politicians to do what's right for our country. We just got to make sure that in this country that we elect the right people. And that's really a shame sometimes. I think people are elected, and we don't do enough research to find out. In fact, I told somebody one time, I said, "You can hire me, don't pay me any money. Of course, pay me expenses, and I'll
yes,
work for the
pretty
government. I'll work."
expensive.
Yeah, that's right. I'll work for the government for nothing. Just tell me hey, put me on the border. I'll do something
Mm-hmm.
for the border. Put me somewhere. But I don't want it because I'm old enough. I don't need your money. But I love this country. I'll do whatever I can to help the country.
Outstanding.
Mhm.
So we're getting close to the end of
Yeah.
our 30 minutes, and it seems like it has flown by.
Yeah, I
Because
blab too much. I don't mean to talk too much. I get excited,
no,
pumped up.
this is me. I think the world needs to hear more from you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
And what are some quick tips for people that are looking for purpose?
I think the biggest thing is have a positive attitude. If you're around people that are negative, get away from them. Finish your education, get as much education that you can, but be a positive person. Look at the good in life. I mean, there's too many people now in life that say, "Oh, what was me?" Like I said a few minutes ago. Look at the good stuff in life. Look at the positive things. Don't worry about something that you can't affect. I mean, I can't. I can only affect the things around me, immediately around me.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing something at this higher level, okay, I don't like it, but can I change it? Nope, can't change it. So don't bother me. If it affects me, then be concerned. But have a positive attitude. Have a positive attitude. Stay physically fit and mentally tough. Love your kids, love your family, and love your country. And just keep working hard. And again, figure out what your niche in life is. Don't be like me. I was a crappy kid when I started, but luckily now somewhere I found my niche. I got to tell you one story, and I love telling this story. I have an older son
Okay.
and had hope we got enough time. Older son had pneumococcus meningitis.
Oh,
Left him temporarily blind, temporarily deaf, 20 to 30 convulsions a day, had encephalitis, had a lumbar shunt put in his spine. And I tell you the truth, and I'll make this quick. I tell you, he always thought he'd die by the time he was 8 years old or 10 years old.
mm-hmm.
And I was at Fort Lewis, Washington. My wife says, Jack, you got to come home. So I came home, and he was in the hospital and sort of in a bad state.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked the doctor, I said, Doctor, what's going to happen? He said, I don't know. He said, well, he's going to live. He said, I don't know. I said, oh my goodness. So, what I did is anybody that has problems, what's the first thing they do? They sit down and pray to God. Mm-hmm. So I went in this chapel and I got on my hands and knees and I said, God, either let him live or let him die. Don't make him suffer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fair to make people suffer. And so, let him live or let him die. And that's all I said, and I was just a bad state of mind for that particular time. You can really understand. The next day, there wasn't nothing wrong with him. His seizures stopped. He's on I always say 3 or 4 different kinds of medication. They give him less medication. So whatever's wrong, it could have been a blockage. There could be a lot of stuff, a lot of reasons why. But I tell you that story because this is what I did, and this is the outcome. So believe in yourself. Believe in doing what's right for you and your family. Don't get bogged down. Believe in life. Believe in God, and believe to do the best for the people around you. Do just be honest and fair with everybody you work with.
Outstanding. Well, this interview has been a dream of mine. And I think that the world definitely needs to hear your story more. And hopefully we could set another one of these up in the future. And I couldn't imagine anything better than to get your story out and, to let the people know who you really are rather than what they just read in books.
Well, I appreciate that. Remember now, if you go to yournextmission.org, I do a show every week. In fact, this year I want to start asking people to send me questions that I can answer on the air. Maybe that'll work out good. But yeah, go to Your Next Mission, be a subscriber, follow me, and you can listen to me run my mouth some more.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it here, and I'm just putting it up there, yournextmission.org.
Yep.
And I greatly appreciate you sharing your time with me and everybody else that will watch this. And that's the great thing about it is these lives, they get recorded and your message, our conversation will be out there for the world to see. And I think definitely we need to listen to those that have achieved everything they possibly could.
Oh, I appreciate that.
You're one of them. And I consider you a friend. I so tickled to death I chose to call.
Oh yeah, God. Well, I consider you a friend too, and I appreciate you allowing me to be on your show.
And we got to play golf again.
I need to play. I love to play at least every Tuesday and Thursday. I try to play right here where I live and hopefully win some money.
Well, I have to take you up on one of those Tuesdays or Thursday golf times.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you again. Just to close this up, I've been talking. My name is Philip Ailes. I've been talking with 12th Sergeant Major of the Army, Jack Tilley. And you can check out his book too. Yeah, he wrote a book about his time in the military. And I look forward to future conversations.
Absolutely. God bless you.
All right. Thanks.
Uh-huh.